up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, a day to be seized, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I don't think I'm on yet. You need more volume? I can speak louder, John. Can you hear me now?
Getting there, because I couldn't hear us either.
Okay, I think we're on now. All right, so welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Clyde Goings, and I want to welcome you here on this beautiful, hot Sunday morning as we are moving into our summertime. Before we get started, though, we have a quick announcement from one of our congregants who is now leading our Projects of Love, and it's Nancy Noel. Thanks for reminding me, Nancy.
Good morning, everyone. Just to let you know that we're in the process of collecting food right now to fill. Oh,
Yeah,
well,
that's it.
okay, got it?
Now go into it like that.
Good morning, everyone. There we go. I just want to let you know that we're in the process right now of collecting food and to put in bags here for Reverend Karen and Cheryl to have to give to people who come and who need food for their families. So there's information on the internet and in the newsletter. There's information of the things you might be able to bring on the little table in Papke Hall. So please feel free to talk to me afterwards and ask me any questions about that, and to bring things in anytime now until the 26th of this month, when we will be putting the bags together here for Reverend Karen. Okay.
Thank you, Nancy Noel. So the Projects of Love is one of our community outreach programs that we're doing, and we just started this back up, and Nancy's getting it going. So one of the things that we do with the Projects of Love is on a quarterly basis, we actually, the people that are on the team identify local community nonprofit organizations that we actually tithe to that community. And so that's part of our tithing process of giving back to the community here. So we just wanted to get that up and running again now that everything is somewhat back to normal now. So speaking of back to normal, today is a wonderful day because it's Dining with the Dudes. So we have a really wonderful hot summer menu for you guys, and we're having hot dogs. I'm sorry to tell you, John, there's no fried chicken. But I did make homemade chili. So if you've never had a Frito pie, we have everything to make Frito pies. It'll be really wonderful. So please join us after service for a wonderful brunch that we're going to have, Dining with the Dudes. We'll take care of everything. You guys just show up and eat. So that is what that's all about. So we come together every Sunday to support one another and to remember our truth, that we're whole, perfect, and complete just the way we are. So we know that our lives are unfolding in divine right order because we're part of the life, which is God's life. So we are grateful to know that truth. So let's say our vision statement together. We are a loving, joy-filled community honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles. And so it is. So now if you could just sit back, relax, open up your hearts and minds for the Bradford's beautiful music and Reverend Karen's beautiful message. Thank you.
My fault. Oh, just take a deep breath.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
And here, in this quiet place that has been created, where we can take this opportunity to be still and know the truth of who we are, here in this moment as it carries forward into every moment. So I give thanks for this day, for everyone who is here watching or watching online or after the fact at any time. I give thanks for this community as we come together to connect, to love, to enjoy each other's company, to feel that essence that is life. So here in this moment, in this service, I know it is already a perfect, beautiful idea in the mind of God. Therefore, it must unfold accordingly. That in this space where the divine is in charge, I know that the Bradford's music, as always, lifts us and opens our hearts. And Reverend Karen's message is given to us in a way that lifts us and touches our hearts and provides an opportunity for us to take home and apply new things. So I give thanks for this day, for everyone here, for everyone everywhere, knowing that this day is an absolute beautiful day. I give thanks. I release this out into the law, knowing that it is already done, and so it is. So my reading today is from a fabulous book called A New Design for Living, in a section called Hidden Facts. Probably the most difficult of all facts to discover and to face are those within ourselves, to recognize within our own thoughts the way it has been negatively productive. In all probability, we are not even aware that we have been and are now doing to ourselves. We have the courage to look in the mirror of our negative experience and discover in our own thought what corresponds to it. Perhaps we have perhaps we have to discover the circles of limitation we have drawn about ourselves, across which we seem unable to move. How many have we drawn? What kind of circles are they? Do they relate to health, abundance, happiness? This we have to discover for ourselves. In any event, we face the task of finding our own patterns of thought, the negative content, and proceed to do something about it, establish new ideas, form new declarations, new designs for living. This is always the great experiment, always the continuing experiment to use affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, to see how we may, through whatever method we use, more completely convince ourselves that there is a divine and perfect pattern at the center of everything, and that the law, acting on our word, will remove every obstruction until that which we are already is revealed. Our word projects new conditions through the same power that made the old ones. So take this moment to see that regardless of the condition, everything can change. It is.
Everything is beautiful in its own way, like a starry summer night or snow-covered winter's day. Everybody's beautiful in their own way. Under God's heaven, the world's gonna find a way.
There is none so blind as he who will not see.
We must not close our minds and let our thoughts be free.
For every hour that passes by, you know the world gets a little older. It's time to realize that beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. Everything is beautiful in its own way, like a starry summer night or snow-covered winter's day. Everybody's beautiful in their own way. Under God's heaven, the world's gonna find a way. One more time and sing it with us. Everything is beautiful in its own way, like a starry summer night or snow-covered winter's day. Everybody's beautiful in their own way. Under God's heaven, the world's gonna find the way.
Oh, that's perfect. What a great start. Good morning. I would love to see you. Oh, thank you. Let there be light. How lovely. You just ask and Stuff happens. I know. See how powerful we are? Good morning, good morning. I'm Reverend Karen Rice, and I'm the spiritual leader of this community. And so happy to be here today. And I have a really fun, interesting message with some material you can take home and use. So just notice what happens to you while I'm speaking this morning and I'm stirring up some thoughts, because the title of my message is, hang on, are you ready? No damnation. Not politically. Don't hear that politically. But like in damning and the idea of hell and hellfire and evil in the world, I want us to look at that in a new way and see that there are some potent words of many great spiritual leaders and philosophers that really lean into this idea of no damnation, that perhaps there's another way of expanding our understanding of some of the stuff that happens in the world. My story starts with when I was a little girl and I first heard of hell. It scared the hell out of me, I guess. I guess that would be appropriate. It just really shook me up, you know. And I remember going to my dad, and I was pretty small still, and I just really looked up to my dad. Daddy, help me understand hell. Do you believe in hell? What is hell? What does that mean? I don't understand this God that punishes in hell. And I don't think I was sophisticated enough to word it like that. But I was really intrigued with the way that hell sounded really threatening. And my father said, it's all poppycock. He probably didn't use that word, but no, I don't believe in any of that. And I think I must have really believed him, because no matter what religions I've dabbled in my adulthood or even as a kid, I have never really been able to wrap my brain around hell. And then I discover New Thought, and I read like the writings of Ernest Holmes, who founded this teaching. And he says things like, I was a full-grown man before I realized there were people that believed in a literal place called hell, that you might, that I couldn't believe it because it was such a mythology to him. So he had been raised in a very open-minded Christian home where certainly the preacher spoke about it on Sundays, but the mother and the father of the family did not enforce any fear-based religious teachings. And they did it beautifully because they raised some great sons. They had 9 sons, and this teaching was born from all of that, those beginning days. So there are, I think in the times of the transcendentalists and the founding fathers, the deists, they were all chatting about this idea of, does the Bible really teach about hell? And so they stirred up some controversial conversations, but we see, and by the way, the philosophers from thousands of years ago did the same thing. They questioned these things. And what we see is there are more and more religious teachings that are looking at redefining some of those concepts that used to be traditionally presented in a regular basis. One of the most remarkable that I had the privilege of meeting Bishop Carlton Pearson, and he was like a Baptist, a very stringent televangelist. He was going to follow in the footsteps of somebody famous, I don't know, Billy Graham, or who's a famous televangelist other than Jim Baker? Who? Billy Graham. We'll go with Billy Graham. He was thought to be the person that would eventually replace somebody well known on TV, until he took a sabbatical from ministry. And he took, I can't remember if it was 2 months or 3 months, and he went away sort of in a silent retreat setting, and he made it his goal to just study the 4 books of the gospel. And in those weeks of quiet, being alone without anyone telling him what anything meant, he felt like he had this major wake-up call, like, I don't think Jesus I don't think that was the message of Jesus. I think people are missing the point. And he came back so excited because he had grounded himself in this new way of looking at life that had no damnation in it, that had no hell, and that maybe even we have to re-look at how much we've made Satan a bad guy, and how does this fit in with the world mythologies that predate formal religion. So he comes back and he comes back to his pulpit and he starts preaching this new point of view. And well, it's historically written that it was devastating, that there were thousands of people in this giant church who absolutely left him and turned on him, and the radical extremists at the top, because it was he called himself a fundamentalist, and he was a fourth generation fundamentalist, so that's not an option in that case. And what do you do now when you no longer have that belief? So I'm not sure if my father influenced me and planted some seeds when I was a little girl, because Daddy knows everything. Daddy is sort of like a god when in the right settings. I don't know if it was that, or if there's something in me that just resonated with that same truth in the way that my father spoke it, but I have never had to give up hell. So here's the quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes in the book Essential Earnest that inspired me and got me all excited. And boy, I have been excited this week to come talk to you about all this. Holmes said, "I know that any belief in a power that damns or a hell that waits is false. There is no damnation, no judgment coming in or passing through." So effectively, I thought of it this way, and if I could rename the talk, I would have named it this. Evicted from hell. We've been officially evicted from hell. Now, I know that isn't true for everybody sitting in the room. I like that I am a minister in a faith that encourages you to be fed from the faith of your childhood, if that works for you. I love that we have people here every Sunday that still go to Mass in the Catholic Church, or still go to temple and worship in their Jewish ways, follow their religious traditions. We even have people from the Islam faith that come here and are fed here, because that's what we do well. We're an educational organization. We're not so much religious. And I like that very much. But I like the theme of being evicted from hell. I can tell you, I have never experienced being evicted. But I have certainly moved a lot. And in fact, one time when my children were younger, they were all school age, I did have we were renting a house, and that we'd only been there a couple of years, and I had kids in elementary school up to junior high. So, I really didn't want to upset their lives, but the landlord came to us and said, "I've made a decision. I'm going to be selling this property." And so, it's just shattering news to hear that you have to move. It wasn't our choice. But what I knew was, with 4 little kids, I was not willing to try and keep the house clean and show the house and have strangers walking around with my personal things. So my husband and I at that time made a decision to find a place to move. And my goal was to keep my children in the same school district, which sometimes is tricky to do, especially in the Southern California area. Well, would you believe, one day I go out for my morning walk, predates my understanding of this type of living, where you use your affirmative prayer and positive thinking and all of that. It predates my commitment to this in a religious, spiritual way. I'm taking my walk, and the house 2 doors down was being emptied, and I knew the people that lived there were renting, so I knew there had to be another landlord in the neighborhood somewhere, and we were able to just move 2 houses down. So we lived on that street for 27 years, and in all those years, we had the same next door neighbors that were up first on this side of us and then later on that side of us. But I want to tell you something. Moving 2 doors down is as chaotic as moving across the country. little cheaper, but it was just as chaotic. And so that's what I want to look at this morning is, you know what happens when you move? Everybody here has moved. Some of you are either in the process of moving or just settling in. So you're going to relate to this. There gets a point where you found your shoes, you know where your makeup and your, bathing products are. And now everything is drudgery that you just want to get the boxes out of the way, right? You just want to have all your stuff in some kind of order again, and you're tired of digging through boxes, and you're tired of unpacking. And isn't it true? I know it's not true for everybody, but I think it's true for most of us that somewhere we get tired of unpacking and we lose interest in it. And there ends up being a couple of boxes with miscellaneous random stuff that you don't quite know what to do with, but you're not quite ready to let it go yet. And so you leave it in the boxes, and in the end, I am pretty sure I have re-taped boxes shut and then shoveled them in the spare bedroom or in a closet or worse yet in the garage, only to discover them the next time you move. So there's a way that I think we do that with our beliefs. We collect our beliefs throughout our entire life. Every experience adds a little extra something to our belief system. And at some point, we want to change. We like getting wiser, but we aren't quite ready to let go of all of those old beliefs. So we seal the box shut and we put it in let's say the basement. This would be more relevant in the Midwest. But let's say we had basements and we put it in the basement. Anybody got a basement here now? It's too rocky to have basements here, I'm going to guess. Plus, we just don't need them other than storing more stuff. It would be cooler, wouldn't it? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. If we walk through some of the ruins, if you go out in the desert and look at how some of the indigenous people lived before we got here, they knew that. So I believe there's this beautiful way of looking at the theme of being evicted from hell and now using it in a way that we can look at our stinking thinking or our worrisome habits, our obsessive little things we do, and maybe we can evict some of those ideas, beliefs, and behaviors from the way they show up in our living. So this indeed is a faith in which we do not talk or teach about any opposing force to God, and we don't have a hell that we teach in any of our philosophy, and yet at the same time, I am willing to consider that some of us maybe hang on to beliefs like that because it sort of keeps us on the path. It keeps us moving ahead in the straight and narrow. Just that way, there's a little bit fear that okay, I don't think I believe in hell, but just in case, maybe I better be good. So that can't be a bad thing. I think it's only bad when parents use it as a potential eternal punishment. That certainly doesn't serve us. But it did help to raise children. I will say that they have to be afraid of something, right? You've got to have some way of keeping them in order. But again, I didn't do that. I never would have done that. But I think there's more to it. If you look at the human psyche, there's something in the way we show up in life, the way that we like those action films where there's always a hero that gets the bad guy, and some of the bad guys these days are really bad. We like the crime dramas because we want to experience the justice that we don't always see in our lives or in the world. We even like the sci-fi stuff because I think it really is fulfilling to see the monster get, destroyed by the army or the group, whoever's doing battle with Godzilla this time around. My husband, by the way, loved all of those things. It was when I got into ministry, and the more I meditated, the more sensitive I started getting to all that stuff. I had a rule when he retired and he was home in the daytime and he wanted to watch TV in the day. First, the rule was you don't put the TV on before noon. I couldn't bear it. Fortunately, he slept late. But the second rule was, if I'm going to hear guns fired or women screaming, it's not going to work for me as long as I'm in earshot of it. So he really tried to honor that. And maybe that's why we watched Godzilla so much. It was like not as offensive as some of the more other, the other stuff. But it's that idea that we like the triumph of good over evil. We like anything that fuels our sense of justice, and you know what? Sometimes we just like to see the bad guy get it. Not me so much, but that I know of anyhow. Maybe we all do it and we don't know it. But I say that because just a couple days ago, I was driving in my car and I had the radio on, and I heard the DJ say this, or something like this. He said, "Happiness is when the guy that just cut you off gets pulled over." And it was kind of funny and it was kind of relatable. And then I was thinking, because I was working on this message, I was thinking, yeah, we do like to have, it's comforting to have that belief. And yet what we've come to know in the last couple years, 3, maybe more, it's more complicated than that. It's not so clear who the good guy and the bad guy. We don't know who they are anymore. And in fact, in many ways, they've flip-flopped, who we used to think, or some people used to think this and used to think, and now it's all scrambled up. And so there are days where I'm not sure what I think. There's a bigger story, however, that's always unfolding, and it's the hero's journey. It's been in mythology for thousands of years. Before the written word, human beings, when they could speak, were passing these stories along, and they all have a similar theme. It's like all the movies that are at the theater. It's like any fairy tale that we tell our children. There's a cycle. So this Joseph Campbell sort of made us all aware, especially in a spiritual circle. We talked about Joseph Campbell a lot, and the way that we look at all of the mythologies through all the faiths, through all the primal stories that have been passed along, even the biblical stories, both the Old and the New Testament, there is this cycle of the hero's journey that tells us that it is actually evil that challenges us to grow. Now, I'm not suggesting, because we don't teach this either, and you get to have your belief. Is this one of those talks where you can have a differing opinion, but I want you not to miss the essence of the theme here. We don't teach of a God that causes the pain in our lives to teach us a lesson, right? That is not a part of new thought. What we do understand, because we're so focused on education and personal growth, is that our challenges are the very fodder for our growth and for our desire to change and progress in our lives, to have a broader perspective and to heal what ails us in our life, our relationships, our finances, our bodies even. So we understand that it's always been in the human psyche, the first people, the primal people, battled the woolly mammoth, and they hoped to capture it, kill it, eat it, and keep the tribe healthy. So there's this primal way that people have always protected what's theirs. Another tribe might come in and steal their women, and there's all this way that it's sort of primally in us to plan ahead for hard times and to be ready for battle. But the thing is that though we have those urges in us, the spiritual life, and this is why there have always been spiritual traditions long before before religions became formalized, there were always spiritual traditions that attempted to explain to people why things happen the way they do. So imagine you don't have any of this science stuff and there's a eclipse of the sun. That had to be really scary stuff before they started predicting it and knowing about it. So spirituality teaches us those basic things, that we live, that we have experiences, then we learn from our experiences, and that we grow and we make changes and we advance in every way. So I was thinking about it this way, just because sometimes when I'm locked alone in my office writing, funny thoughts move through my head. This was how I summed it up. In the privacy of my own home, I'm going to now make it public. Spirituality teaches us about life. It teaches us to cope. It tells us don't mope. It tells us to have hope. And I think that's why there's a Catholic Pope. Because it rhymes. It all rhymes, right? And I'm not sure what to do with soap on a rope. But it has to tie in somehow. I'm not sure. Maybe the symbol of being cleansed mentally. I don't know what it is. But anyhow, you see what you have to do when you live alone and you're used to being partnered. Woo! Life goes a little crazy. I think the complex part of all of this, the complex part of embodying spiritual ideas or living a spiritual life is that it requires we look at our relationship to fear. And you know why? Because when we are living from those primal reactions to everything that goes on in the world around us, we are very aware of that need to protect ourselves and to protect our loved ones. And there comes along with that a sense of defending ourselves. And then that spills into our character. Then we become defensive in the way we language things. Oh, no, that's not what I meant to say. What I meant to say, because we feel misunderstood. So then we try and clarify what we were trying to say because we now have a belief that other person doesn't get us. But that we make that up. That's not real. Whether or not the other person cares enough to be really involved in listening and interacting and having a relationship with you, that's a whole other story. But when we defend ourselves, we begin to carry around armor that is heavy. I envision it like that shield, the ancient, like the guys on the horses, like medieval times. And they have all that, and they have a shield and they wear the armor and all of that to protect themselves. So I love that spiritual concept that our safety lies in our defenselessness. I will never be able to feel your heart if your heart is so covered over with armor and you don't feel safe to be vulnerable. Then I will never have that opportunity for us to relate to each other in a more intimate, personal way. And we shouldn't miss those opportunities. It's just necessary for us to be smart, So we aren't afraid of the woolly mammoth showing up so much anymore. Although, have you been to the La Brea Tar Pits in LA? That's an interesting place to go. where the oil seeps through the parking lot and they can't do anything about it. It just always, the oil tar seeps through, and there are footprints of dinosaurs, and it's a great museum. Just don't know where that came from. But I guess I was thinking that, I love nature, but man, I love nature my way. Like the zoo works for me. They're all the wild animals. I should be safe from the wild animals at the zoo. But if I was going to walk through the woods, now I really speak with a little authority here because I watch all those Alaska shows on TV. So I know what I'm talking about here. That I noticed that in the wilds of Alaska, where people are really trying to live off the land, they are very conscious that they are living with bears. They are very aware that the wolverine, you don't want to bump into a wolverine unexpected, and that stuff can steal their kill. It's just a whole other world. So I understand there's an appropriateness to a consciousness that requires us to be alert. However, what I have seen happen in the last few years is that we shared a global experience, and we have some side effects from being through that experience of a pandemic. So not only were we isolated and separated from each other, which is not our normal state. Our soul craves connection with other human beings. Our soul craves connection. And so now we're all isolated, and then to make that even more complex, complexity births newness, so it wasn't all bad, I guess, but I'm still waiting to see what that newness is, how it's going to look, how it's going to impact our lives in a positive way. But what we know is then on top of all of that, we were fixated on how horrible the pandemic was. So every single day we were fed fear thoughts that our life was in danger, that the lives of our families were in jeopardy, and there was no relief from it. Even, I mentioned this recently, even when I would prepare for a board meeting and we would have conversations around when will we reopen, we had to face those facts. So it was like going to the woods and knowing that bears live in the woods and so do wolverines. It is time for us to breathe and evict some of that fear from our lives. We cannot continue at that level of being guarded all the time and being hypersensitive to the way. That's what depletes our immune system, and that is counterproductive for the season that we are living in now. So you have to work that out in your own life. I can't tell you what that means. So I really encourage you to mask if you need to mask, and to stay home and watch from home if you want to do that. And I want you to know all of that. And I also am grateful that we are gathering again. And for goodness sake, isn't it wonderful that the men cook for us now once a month? That we are having dining with the dudes again. I love that. So when we're afraid, we sort of misplace certain threads of truth that otherwise would elevate us and make us confident, right? We forget about the power and the presence and everything that we believe about that. There is no place where God is not, and that life is for us and not against it. We forget about all of those things, and it's time for us to take that back, to evict whatever it is that blocks us from remembering that. We want to prioritize what's important, and we want to dig into the basement and get out those boxes and rip off the tape and re-examine in the light of day, in the light of this new day that we are living in, because this is the day that God made for us. This is that day. Do not take that for granted. And so we want to look and see, what do we need and what is it time to let go of? What is it we're ready to evict from our own experience, our own beliefs, whatever they may be. Here's what Dr. Ernest Holmes says about all of this. And I found this quote in the Science of Mind textbook, page 109, if anybody's interested. Powerful section in the book. We must know definitely and consistently that the universe is for us and not against us. But some will say, this is Dr. Ernest Holmes, it kind of makes me laugh to think he talked this way. But some will say the universe isn't for us. Some will say, look at evil and limitation and lack. Look at the physical pain and the anguish that the human race experiences. And then he gets really bold and he responds to that and he says, we shall have to learn that evil is neither person, place, nor thing of itself, but it is an experience which we are allowed to have until, do you hear that word? It is an experience you will move through until until through the negative experience itself, you're walking through something really hard, challenging, icky. From that experience, we learn to use spiritual principle affirmatively. You got to walk through whatever's in front of you. We don't have any choice about that. Life has seasons, right? Things come and things go. Things come to pass, it says in Scripture. So when we begin to understand there is a principle. I'm speaking today about the principle of harmony in the universe. Usually I talk about good. Like there's a power for good in the universe and you can it's for you and you can use it. But I think that some people get confused when I use the word good and your life doesn't feel very good. Right? Because we all go through trying times. So I want to talk about it in that way. There's a harmony in the universe. There's an order in the way the planets orbit, or the moon orbits the Earth, or I don't know. Is that right? It doesn't matter. There are just universal principles that sustain life, and it's time that we began to recognize more and more how important this is, our choice to see this. Dr. Holmes went on to say, we must learn to cooperate with the universe. Align yourself to that harmony. Evict what doesn't correspond with that harmony you desire to feel and experience. We must learn to cooperate with the universe and thus learn to enjoy the full benefits. Life is about liberty and freedom and expansion. If you've lost your sense of that, then we want to do something to restore our own awareness of it. There's a theme in all of this. There's a theme in every spiritual teaching, really, about being attentive in this way, being accountable for what goes on inside your own thinking, your own personal relationship with that power that's greater than you are, with God. Holmes said in several places, just in the textbook alone, Dr. Holmes said that we need to pay attention to our morbid imaginings. Wow. This is not an insult, We haven't done anything wrong. It's just that we have in our genes a memory of the woolly mammoth chasing the tribe. So listen to this quote, where this is just one of many quotes that where Holmes has used that term. Heaven is lost merely for the lack of a perception of harmony. Does that sound familiar? Heaven is lost merely for a lack of perception of harmony. That should sound familiar because I've said it almost every week for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And hell is the phantom abode of our morbid imaginings. So we can restore our own sanity simply by realigning ourselves, remembering, looking for harmony in our lives, in the world, in nature, in other people, in the way systems work. I mean, look at mathematics. I spoke of that last week. There's a perfection to it. But if you don't know how to multiply, you can't do algebra. So there are ways we learn more and more the longer we live. So I have, for many years, probably my call to ministry, which goes back to the early 2000s, for many years, for decades now, I have been reading and studying and attempting to understand so that I can express to you. I have been studying and researching what other experts have to say to leaders about the changes that are unfolding in the world. Not since the pandemic. I've been doing this for at least 2 decades. I have devoted my life to such study. And what I want to tell you is the experts that I look at everybody. I don't put anybody off my list till they offend me, and then they're gone, of course. I'm just like you in that way. But the experts that I most respect all say the same thing. And they say it with an urgency. And some of these people that I'm calling experts are great thinkers from hundreds or thousands of years ago. The philosophers, the spiritual great, in the Middle Ages, in the Dark Ages, there were these great like Meister Eckhart and, well, not Swedenborg, but later Swedenborg, but these great thinkers who also dabbled in science. They all said the same thing, and this is what they said, and I want you to really hear it. This is not my opinion. I believe, but although I totally believe it, the biggest threat to humanity, no matter what time frame we're looking at, the biggest threat to humanity is despair and hopelessness. Do you hear that? It's not a pandemic. It's not war. It's not the environment. Our biggest threat is when we go into being that despair or that hopelessness over how bad things work. So if you think I just stand up here and I'm a positive thinker, and I hope you don't. I can't imagine anybody would call me. I'm pretty raw and honest, I think. I don't know. But that concerns me. I was teaching the foundation class one time, and there's a question in that material that says, what is your biggest fear for the world? And we went around the room and people shared what they had for that. And somebody said to me, I don't think I have a fear for the world. I'm pretty spiritually grounded. She didn't say that, but I just think about it. I don't have one. And I said, well, I do. My fear for the world is the contagion of fear, because I think in the contagion of fear is that despair and hopelessness. But you know what the good news is? And I just figured this out. Do you know what the good news about the contagion of fear is? Is that it's not just how contagious fear is, but that all our emotions are contagious. Do you notice if somebody laughs really, really hard, sometimes you can't help but laugh yourself just watching them laugh, because all of the emotions have that. And that's why some people are sensitive to conflict, because they can feel that and they're aware of how they feel it. So I don't want you to leave today without being prepared to use this in the world. So I'm going to ask you now, you at home, make a list, because you can't share. But those of you in this room, I would be interested in hearing, it's just going to be a shout out. I would be interested in hearing, in what ways can we still see harmony in our lives or in the world, even when there's chaos or discord, because chaos and discord happen. So what are the signs of harmony that are always working in our favor? Say it again?
Nature.
In what way? We have to be more specific here.
The seasons continue to turn.
Okay, the seasons begin to change. Somebody else.
Sundown.
In what way, animals? In what way? You know, unconditional love can be right in front of you, but if you're going through crisis, you're not going to necessarily see it. So in what way? Give me an example, Reverend Clyde. Oh, what was that? Something about... Oh, God, that really touched me. That was beautiful. Thank you. They pulled the unconditional love out of you. Got it. Okay, now I'm on the same frame as you. And I saw a hand here with Sarah. Yes, yes. And then I am always taken when I stop and I think that the plants need our carbon dioxide and we need them to give us back the oxygen. There is a relationship there that we could not survive without. There are somebody else. Was that a thought, Robert? So we see that when we go in that, wait till you hear the level of connection. You can just hear it like a rumble when we go in there to eat and share and hang out with each other, right? I really thought I was doing that. I actually thought I was doing that quite well. So what was it you said? Apparently I didn't say that one. Fellowship. And then I said, we'll go in there and fellowship. So, yes. One more. I saw a hand back there, Jan. Well, that is something we can do. But where do we see that show up as the harmony in life that we might otherwise miss? Oh, perfect. Who said that? Was that from... Perfect. Children are a great example. Very similar to animals. And chickens, I know so much more about chickens now that I went to visit my sister's farm. And she videotapes me, and I always hear the chick bark, 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 bark. They love her. They hang around her. Yes! There are perfect patterns everywhere. I see a hand in the back, and this will be our last one. Okay, but that was not the question. Evict that thought quickly. That is a damnation and a hellish thought. Let's evict it. Thank you for sharing it so we could make a point. Do you see the point? Do you get the point? How different do we feel when we're talking about the harmony? When we stop and question and I say, tell me more, Reverend Clyde. I'm not connected. Tell me more. Do you see how our souls long for that clarity, that connection, because that is a part of harmony? So I will tell you this, and you don't have to believe me, but I wouldn't lie to you. I'm paid to tell the truth mostly. Life exhibits far more harmony than discord. And when you examine closely what appears to be discord in nature, it is almost always part of that cycle we talked about last week. Birth, sustaining life, the livingness, and then the decay that then goes, that life force energy goes back in to fuel the next round of whatever's going on. So never forget that chaos can distract us from harmony, but something is harmonized enough to sustain this entire universe so that we can, if we choose to see that life is supporting us. I want to close with a bit of, I want to tell you about Father Gregory Boyle. Raise your hand if you know who Father Greg Boyle is. Whoa, what a hero. Talk about heroes. So Father Greg Boyle is a Jesuit priest in Los Angeles, and he started the Homeboy Industries, and he founded it. He's the head of it, and it is the most successful gang intervention program in the world. And you know why it's successful? Because he doesn't see them as gang members. or ex-gang members. He sees the holiness in them. I promise he has to have read a lot of the same books that I've read because he speaks a language I really, really relate to. He sees the whole picture, and he says that it is our judgment, our personal judgments against evil that get us into trouble because it blocks us from seeing the bigger picture. It blocks us from recognizing the holiness in life, even in people that don't look so holy. So in his work, he has dedicated his life to helping people overcome poverty and violence and hopelessness. All the things we're talking about today, worded slightly different, and this is what he said. These are such gorgeous words. People aren't wicked. They're just strangers to their own goodness. When we embrace relational wholeness, he refers to it as relational wholeness, but you hear what that is? How we relate to each other in the whole as humanity. When we relate to each other and we see the wholeness in that, our divisions tremble. Oh, God, I wished I said that. I'd love to be known for those words. So I'll just repeat them because they're so good. When we embrace that, everything that isn't like that trembles and quakes and shatters into nothingness. So it is true, from a secular or sort of worldly view, we focus on behavior and outcome. But when we speak spiritually, we are now speaking above behavior, above outcome, above what we view as bad choices. And in that view, we glance just a little bit above it and we see more. We can see the common wholeness. We can see that there is a mystical union in the way we are all connected. So let us evict damnation. Let us get rid of our hellish thoughts. Let us quit demonizing other people because they're different than us, or they think different, or they voted for the wrong person, whatever we think that might be. Let us evict that damnation from our lives completely so that we might be tethered to truth, tethered to God, and embraced in that holy love. And that's what I wanted to say today. And now, all the mass exodus of the men from the sanctuary as they go to prepare the meal. We'll pray for them. How does that sound? Because we like good food. I just feel so much love inside of me right now. Touched by the sound of the beautiful piano keys moving deeper and deeper into that sacred space. I feel the love of God, and I know that it is in that way that we touch the secret place of the Most High, that which abides within us. It is revealing our own holiness. And as we recognize that love, that truth, knowing that God is love, it is that way that we step into that space of really understanding that unconditional love. The way that we can look at each other and harmonize with something that is higher and holier than just what we think we see. So I feel something moving, something active within me, and I know indeed it is that love It is that awakening of truth. It is that very wisdom of God that brings us gently to a higher perspective. So I know that there are words of truth that have been spoken today that touch the hearts of individuals, each in their own unique way. I know that because we have been willing to be open to that gem of truth, that there is healing that is happening. There are ways in which that expansiveness of love within us is healing our relationships, is rejuvenating our physical bodies, is allowing our immune systems to be healthy and vibrant again. I feel that movement of life, and I sense the very harmony of it. For there can be nothing dark, there can be nothing evil that can hold back this truth. Everywhere around us, God is. And everything about us is God. So we walk in our Godness. We claim this truth of our being, that we do align ourselves and live in harmony with this higher truth. We live aligned to love, and the very energetic of our being shifts in the way that we vibrate as we walk through a crowd of people, and people are healed just by our presence when we remember this. So we do. We lift our minds. We get out of the basement. We get rid of the baggage. And we shine this light of truth. For there is always something wonderful to be grateful for. So I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite Spirit, for this way we are renewed today to stand with this vibrant posture open and ready to receive the good that is ours. And we have activated something in that way, that the givingness of God is pouring and streaming into our lives. And yes, we are healed. Yes, this community is uplifted. Yes, we are together and connected, and we are in love with each other, for we are in love. So I feel this gratitude, this depth of thankfulness stirring and allowing me to know the aliveness of all of life and the eternality of that same breath of life. Thank you, God. I release these words and allow them to be, and together we say, and so it is. Amen. Amen.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
All right, thank you, Bradfords. Just a couple of quick announcements. Remind everybody, if you'd like prayer, you can come up front here. We have practitioners for call to prayer right after service. We are not passing around the offering plate.
Brief announcement before you do the offering.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I have my own mic. Can you do me? I need to tell you, I have sad news. If you haven't heard, Dorothy Moore made her transition last week. And so the reason I needed to interrupt and ask is to let you know that we are looking for a home for her precious kitty. So her cat Mia is 10 years old. She's an inside cat. If you are interested or you know somebody that might be, please call the office and let us know, because you know it would mean a lot to Dorothy and John. Thank you, Clyde.
All right, thank you. All right, and so we are not passing around the offering plate. So if you're online, you can go onto our website and click the donate button. And then we have drop boxes in the back of the room and also in the bookstore. So now, and then the men opened up the door so that way you guys can smell the wonderful aroma of the good food in there. Entice you guys, but stay focused, stay here with me. And then we'll all go over there and have some great food. So now's the time to remember the abundance of our lives as well as the abundance of our community. So let's say our giving affirmation together. I live in the consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Please rise for our last song. To be alive.
Thank you. One more thing I want to announce is that our thrift store is open, so you shoppers out there, you can shop in the thrift store. All right, let's close with our closing affirmation. Repeat after me. I release the fear from my life.
I release the fear from my life.
I know I am supported. I know I am loved.
I know I am loved.
And I know I am guided by a divine spirit.
I know I am guided by divine spirit.
And so it is.
So it is.
And thanks for being here. Remember, pray often, love much, and go eat.